Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome to Town of Fort Erie Community Adjustment for the meeting of December 16th, 2021. It's the last meeting this year. I'd like to thank everybody for participating, all the members, all staff from town, and all the applicants that participated all year through COVID, through Zoom. And everything went well this year, and I appreciate all the things we did this year through Zoom. Thank you so much. Please note this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and I'll call this meeting to order. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to the committee members and staff. The staff for tonight is Brianna Antonio. She's the secretary treasurer. We're recording the minutes of tonight's meeting. And there's Mackenzie Cece. She's the meeting host who's doing the background technical duties. Now, tonight's following members are the following: Ken Burton, Terry Moore, and I'm Sam Sersol. I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. Those members of the public who may be participating electronically in the public meeting portion of this meeting tonight may wish to put your view on gallery view by clicking the top right corner from speaker view. I also ask that you're mindful of background noise for the duration of the meeting. Please also note that participating members of the public who remain in the virtual waiting room via telephone or electronically until they are called upon during the public meeting. This is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act for the purposes of considering both minor variance and consent applications. Members of the committee have been provided with all written comments received by agencies and public prior to this meeting. Committee members are asked to mute their microphones until you are asked to speak. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak and vote by raising your hand. The purpose of the meeting is to obtain input from residents relative to the application. Those participating online via Zoom will be asked to raise their virtual hand when they wish to speak. On a computer, you can do so by clicking on participants in the bottom center of the screen and then by clicking raise hand. On a mobile device, you can tap more in the bottom right and then tapping raise hand. You then be brought into the meeting by staff. You can then unmute yourself and start your video by using the buttons on your screen. If you're participating by phone and wish to raise your hand, press *9 and you'll be unmuted by staff. Next, we'll hear from the applicant or agent, then from those in support or opposition to the application or to ask questions. We ask that each attendee keep their comments to under 10 minutes to allow all attendees the opportunity to speak. Applicants attendees are advised they are free to leave the webinar once a decision has been made on the application. Each application will proceed in the following order. Number 1, the secretary treasurer will summarize the purpose and effect of the application and any comments received. Number 2, the applicant will be called to speak and make any further comments that they have any. Number 3, the committee members will ask questions of the applicant. Number 4, the public will be asked to speak one at a time to state their full name and address for the record and any comments they received or they have towards the application. Number 5, the chair will close the application once all comments have been heard. Number 6, the committee members will make a decision on the application, whether it's approved, refused, or deferred, and state if any conditions apply. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Each application will be heard in order in which they appear on the agenda. The notice of decisions will be provided to all applicants stating the outcome of the hearing and any conditions approved if required. Please note that the correspondence and comments received this evening are restricted to the matters of the Committee Adjustment and the Planning Act. In considering each application this evening, the Committee of Adjustment will have due regard for the provisions of Section 45 and Section 53 of the Interior Planning Act of 1990 as amended. A 20-day appeal period exists for each application heard this evening. Final appeal dates are noted on the note of the decision are available by requesting a copy in writing. Now I'll begin by asking members if they have any conflicts of interest with respect to any application we heard this evening. Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And Terry?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And I have no conflicts. I now ask the Secretary Treasurer, notice this meeting was probably given in accordance with the provisions of the Interior Planning Act.
Yes, all abutting property owners within 60 meters of the subject properties were circulated and signage was put on each property as per Planning Act regulations.
Okay, thanks, Brianna. And have you heard or received any requests or withdrawals for respect to tonight's applications?
None.
Okay, thank you. I'll now proceed with the application for tonight's agenda. Our first application is consent file B4721. The address is 1899 Bowen Road. That's 1899 Bowen Road. The applicant is Natalie Boudrum and the owner is Mujir Muni Rudin. Natalie, are you? I'll have to wait till Natalie gets here. Hi, Natalie, how are you? Oh. You have to get your mute button, sorry. Can't hear you. Your mute button's on.
Hi, Natalie. We're still not able to hear you even with the mute button off right now. No.
Could you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can hear you now.
I'll speak without the microphone. Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Our
Good.
lights come off in the office, so I'll be
It's
speaking.
okay, we can see it, no problem.
Okay.
The only question I have is, are you ready to proceed for tonight's application?
I am ready to proceed.
Okay, I'll ask Brianna to read the correspondence once she's done. If you have any comments, you can, and then the committee members will ask questions if they have any, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Brianna, you're on mute.
Application B47 for 1899 Bowen Road by applicant Zach Ozani, agent Natalie Boudrum, and the owner Mujir Muniranjan. I hope I pronounced that okay. Staff have reviewed the application and have no objections to the consent application, subject to 2 conditions. Further comments from, no comments from engineering division, no comments from our drainage superintendent, other than the property is inside the extension of Miller Creek. Niagara Region has provided that they are satisfied with the proposed consent meets the intent of all applicable local conditions, and are in support of the application. The MTO has provided that although the MTO has no object to the above described consent application, both the remaining parcel and parcel to be conveyed are within the MTO permit control area for the QEW. Therefore, MTO building and land use permits are required prior to the commencement of any on-site construction works. All development must comply with the MTO building and land use policy, MTO corridor signage policy, and any other MTO policies and requirements. Information regarding this application process, forms, and the policy can be found at the link they provided. And I believe Natalie has reviewed all comments and staff's recommendation report.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks, Brianna. Natalie, do you have any comments on any of the correspondence that Brianna just summarized, or have you seen any comments, or you have any questions, or you're okay with everything?
Yeah, I'm okay with everything except for the MTO comment that I've just heard. So the cellular tower is existing. So no construction is proposed for this development. As such, I don't believe that a land use and building permit would be required.
So through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. It's just a standard comment should any development occur in the future. They are making comment that you're aware that those would have to be applied for.
Okay, thank you. So it's just a straight comment. It's not a condition. Okay.
Okay, and in terms of the conditions, I know that there was one condition regarding registration of the land registry office, and you mentioned that there were 2. What was the second one?
So the condition, as per our planning staff report, that the applicant solicitor, land surveyor, provide the secretary treasurer with the legal description of the subject parcel to be registered on title, together with an original electronic copy of the deposit reference plan in both PDF and DWG format, for use in the issuance of certificate of consent, and that payment of the final consent certificate, which in the amount of $177 be paid prior to consent finalization.
Okay, yeah, we do agree with those conditions. And I just wanted to, I guess, kind of reiterate just a few things in the letter that was brought forward by our client, Rogers Communications. So typically the location of telecommunications towers is covered by a long-term lease. In this case, the long-term lease has expired, and that the private landowner expressed interest in using the subject land for other uses. As such, Rogers has noted that removing the telecommunications tower would result in the disruption of services for the Fort Erie residents and passerby motorists on the QEW. That, as such, Rogers Communications is requesting to sever the lands to ensure the continuation of reliable telecommunication services in the area. Therefore, Rogers intends to sever and purchase the subject severance parcel. And I agree with staff's perspective, opinion on how the policies relate and support the existing cellular tower and the proposed severance. As such, it's my opinion, my professional planning opinion, that the proposed consent should be approved.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions for the applicant? Ken, do you have any questions?
No, I do not, Mr. Chair.
Terry, do you?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
I'm satisfied from the comments made by the report and by the applicant. I'll ask if there's anybody in the public that would like to speak for or against the application. Mackenzie, see anybody in there? I don't think so. All right, I'll ask this file to be closed and ask committee members to express their comments. Once we express our comments, this file is now closed. Express your comments, then we'll put the motion on the floor. Ken, you want to go first or Terry?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. There should be no adverse effect to the property for agricultural use. It allows the continuation of telecommunications in Fort Erie. Niagara Region had no concerns. Planning staff were in favor, and it's consistent with the provincial policy statement, so I will be voting in favor.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Mr. Chair, it's an existing situation. It's a change in the relationship regarding the piece of property. I'm in favor of approving a motion for the consent.
Thank you, and I'll be supporting the application. It does pass the consent test application. The town supports it, the region supports it, and I'm satisfied that this will be going through. Someone wants to put the motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that based on all oral and written submissions, I move that consent application B4721 be approved with the conditions as requested.
And do I have
I'll
a
second the
second?
motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, Natalie, the motion is carried. You receive a written notice of the committee decision. The decision becomes final so long no appeals are received within the 20 days of this notice. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, the next application is B4821. The address is 246 and 248 Henrietta Street. The applicant is Adam Moot, and the owners TJ and Rebecca Lloyd. Hi, Adam. How are you today?
Very good, Mr. Chair. Thank you. How are you?
Good. And then the only question I have to ask you is, are you ready to proceed for tonight's application for your application?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll ask Brianna to read the correspondence, and then we'll go further in if we have any comments. You have any comments? Thank you.
Application B4821 for 246 and 248 Henrietta Street by TJ and Rebecca Lloyd. Owner Adam Mute has been made to propose the creation of a new parcel to separate two single detached dwellings that currently exist on the same parcel. Staff has reviewed the application and has no objection to the consent application, subject to 7 conditions that have been circulated to the applicant. Additional comments from our engineering division provide 3 additional conditions of consent. Our drainage superintendent has no comment. The MTO has no comment, and we do have public comments that were received in respect to the application from a neighbor that state, with respect to the file B4821, we live next door to this property and my husband and I cannot attend this meeting of consent on December 16th. Michael and Shirley Stoppard of 250 Henrietta Street, Fort Erie, we both give consent to the split of the property 246 and 248. Sincerely, Michael and Shirley Stoppard. And that's all for the comments.
Thanks, Brianna. Adam, do you have any questions or concerns or comments on any of the reports that were in the application or any of the correspondence that Brianna just read?
No, Mr. Chair, I would like to acknowledge and thank staff for their helpfulness though through this process, especially Ms. Antonio and Mr. Spencer Pierce. We're satisfied with their comments and we look forward to proceeding with this. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Any members have any questions, Terry or Ken?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. Mackenzie, is there anybody in the audience?
Chair, we have no public attendees.
Okay, I'll ask this file to be closed and ask the committee members to express their views.
Mr. Chair, I would be in support of approving the consent file. The application is good planning as it achieves general planning objectives and does comply with the site-specific zoning. There are a number of conditions which the applicant has agreed to accept.
Thank you. Terry?
Oh, I'll be voting in favor as well, Mr. Chair, for basically the same reasons.
Thank you. And I'll be supporting the application. Does meet the consent test application. Town supports it, meets the minimum lot requirements of that zoning. So I'll be supporting the application. If someone wants to put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll put a motion that in consideration of all the written and oral submissions, that consent application file B4821 for 246 and 248 Henrietta Street does meet the Planning Act criteria, is consistent with provincial policy and complies with plans, and that it be approved with the stated conditions in the staff reports.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion is approved and carried. Adam, you receive a written notice of committee decision. The decision becomes final so long no appeals received within the 20 days of this notice. Thank you for attending and take care.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee members. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, next application is B4921. The address is 115 Ridgeway Road. The applicant is Belinda Butler. Hi, Belinda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll have Brianna read the correspondence. Once she's read the correspondence, if you'd like to make any comments, you can. If the committee members have any questions, we'll ask you then, okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, Brianna, you can ask, you can read the correspondence. Thank you.
Brianna, you're on mute.
I noticed. Application B4921 for 115 Ridgeway Road by Belinda Butler, owner Belinda Butler. Proposes the creation of a new lot for future residential development. The retained lot with an existing 1.5-story dwelling will be for continued residential use. Staff has reviewed the application, has no objection, subject to 10 conditions which have been circulated. Our building department is also requesting a condition that information to the town be provided so calculations can be performed to ensure the existing structure will comply with the Ontario Building Code requirements for spatial separation, which Belinda has kindly provided. Our engineering division also is requesting through 2 conditions of consent. No comments from our drainage superintendent and no comments from the MTO. And I believe that is it.
Thank you, Brianna. Belinda, do you have any comments or questions on your application, or you're satisfied with everything?
Very satisfied. You guys have just done an amazing job with communication with me, especially Brianna. But I do have one small question, and this might not be the right forum to address it, but, you know, with the new secondary plan that's being, you know, passed through Crystal Beach secondary plan, we were kind of hoping that we would go from R2 to the new multi-residential. I know we would have to go through the process of pre-con rezoning, but with the plan to do intensification and, the highest and best use of the land, would that be something that we could proceed with later? Would it be I know you can't answer the question here until we've done a pre-con, but is that something that is being looked at for some of these properties that didn't get rezoned?
That's a question I'm not too familiar or no. Brian, do you have any information on that or no?
Not a question I have too much information on. Would best be suited for one of our planners. We are in the office back tomorrow. I'm sure one of them can look into it for you, and you can always proceed with the formal application or pre-consultation with a zoning bylaw amendment.
Yeah, I realized we'd have to go through that. I just was curious if you guys had, looked at any of that. So other than that, no, I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
Ken, do you have any
Neither do I,
questions?
Mr. Chair.
And I have no questions. Is there anyone in the audience, Mackenzie? I don't see anybody. Do you see anybody? All right, I'll ask this file to be closed and ask the committee members express their views. Terry?
I'll be voting in favor, Mr. Chair. Both lots exceed frontage and area requirements based on the zoning. It represents good planning. It's an efficient use of land and it's consistent with the provincial policy statement.
Thanks, Terry. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I concur with my fellow member. Also, the applicant has accepted the responsibility for the conditions for the application. I would be in support of the application.
Thanks, and I'll be supporting the application. Terry summarized it the best. Ken summarized that the applicant did agree to all the conditions. So if somebody wants to put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, based on the oral and written submissions tonight, I move that consent application B4921 be approved with the conditions as requested.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion has been approved and carried. Belinda, you receive a written notice committee decision. Decision becomes final so long no appeals are received within the 20 days of this notice. Thanks for attending and you have a good night. Take care.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, the next file for tonight is consent file B5021. The address is 0-13093 Gilmore Road and 577 Industrial Drive. The applicant is Jake Bolton and the owner is Great Space for You, Inc. And Jake, you're online, right? You're on the phone?
Hi, Jake, you're currently muted. You should be able to unmute yourself on your end. I believe it's *6. That would unmute you if you're having issues with that. Yeah, it should be *6 to toggle the mute and unmute.
Mackenzie, can he hear us or no?
I'm not sure. He was able to unmute himself before when I brought him in. So perhaps he's not at the phone at the moment. But just again, Jake, if you are there, you should be able to press *6 or you might be able to mute it, like press the unmute button on your actual phone. Not exactly sure how Zoom will interface with that, but Brianna's going to try to give him a call. So maybe we'll just wait a moment to see if she has any success getting a hold of him. Jake, maybe in the meantime, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but if you could raise your virtual hand, you can do that by pressing *9. At least we'd know maybe you're on the other end and are just having audio issues.
What we'll do in this instance is we'll skip his application for now. And once we're done with the next application, we'll refer back to him. And if he's not there, then we'll go to the last application and then refer back to see if he's available to proceed with his application. Is that okay, everybody? Okay, so we're going to put that application on hold. So if anybody's here that wants to hear consent file B5021, there's a technicality issue possibly. We will get back to that after the next application. So the next application we're going forward will be consent file B5121 and B5221. The address is 3399 North Shore Drive. The applicant is Matt Kernahan and the owner Cider Brothers Builders. Hey, Matt, how are you today?
Doing very well. How are you?
Good. Are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
I am. Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask Brian to read the correspondence. Thank you.
Applications B5121 and B5221 for 3399 North Shore Drive by Upper Canada Consultants, represented by Matt Kernahan, owner Cider Brother Builders Limited, proposed the severance of a waterfront parcel on North Shore Drive, which proposes the creation of 2 new lots for future residential development. Staff have reviewed the application and have no objections to the consent application for B5121, subject to 7 conditions, and no objection to the consent application for B5221, subject to 6 conditions, which have been circulated. Our engineering services department has no objection to the application, subject to 4 conditions. Drainage superintendent has no objection to the application. And lastly, the regional municipality of Niagara have also reviewed the application. And again, have no objection to the application as well. And Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority has provided that they too are in support of the application. That's it for comments.
Thanks, Brianna. Matt, did you like to comment on any of the correspondence that you read or what Brianna's just summarized, or you're okay with everything?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Chair, but
Yes.
I don't have anything to add. We've reviewed the long list of conditions and are satisfied that we can proceed with fulfilling them and moving ahead with the application.
Okay, thank you. Do any committee members have any questions, Terry or Ken?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. Mackenzie, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for or against the application? Is there anybody there? Okay, I'll ask that this file to be closed. Ask committee members express their views, and then we'll put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I would be in favor of the application for the consent, dividing the property into 3 parcels. Excuse me for a second here. Just wanted to read one of the staff comments that the creation of 2 new lots for the future development of the single detached residential dwellings is consistent with the provincial, regional, and town of Fort Erie planning policy and is considered good planning. I'm familiar with that property. It's a beautiful property, and I think the division here is just going to not only direct the growth within the urban area, but will be a very nice addition along the North Shore Drive.
Okay, and Terry?
I'll be voting in favor as well. It's consistent with the provincial policy statement. It's an efficient use of land and it meets the size requirements as set out in the zoning amendments.
Thank you. And I'll be supporting the application. It meets the consent test application. The town supports it. The region supports it. And if someone wants to put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll put a motion on the floor that consideration of all the written and oral submissions that consent application B5121 and B5221 for 3399 North Shore Drive be approved as it complies with the growth plan, Niagara Region official plan and town official plan, subject to the conditions that have been outlined in the staff reports.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion is carried and approved. Matt, you'll receive a notice committee decision within 20 days of this notice, so long as no appeals have been received. Take care and have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mackenzie, did Mr. Bolton, is he back online?
So we had a new call-in user come in and they raised their hand, so I'm going to assume that's the applicant, and we'll bring them in just to see before you proceed.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, is this Jake?
Yeah, I'm speaking.
Perfect.
Hi,
Sorry
Jake.
about that. I was using my mobile phone, and I think that was the issue. I was pressing *6, *9, all of it, and you guys just weren't hearing it.
And you're probably getting frustrated because it wasn't working, right?
Oh yeah, I heard you *6. I'm like, yeah, I'm pressing *6.
No problem. Jake, are you ready to proceed with tonight's? Well, first of all, I have to first announce the application. Sorry, 1 second. So we're going back to consent file B5021. The address is 0-13093 Gilmore Road and 577 Industrial Drive. The applicant is Jake Bolton. The owner is Great Space for You, Inc. And Jake, are you ready to proceed for tonight's application?
I am.
All right, I'll ask Brianna to read the correspondence or summarize the correspondence. If you have any comments or any questions, you may ask us. And then if we have any comments for you, or questions, we'll address them with you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Brianna, you can summarize the correspondence.
Application B5021 for 0-13093 Gilmore Road and 577 Industrial Drive, submitted by Jake Bolton, owner Great Space for You Incorporated, proposes a boundary adjustment between 0-13093 Gilmore Road and 577 Industrial Drive. The subject parcel is proposed to split from the parcel 1 and merge with parcel 3. Parcel 1 will remain vacant. Industrial land. Parcel 2 will be used for future expansion of the industrial use on part 3. Staff have reviewed the application and offer no objection. Conditional on 2 conditions. Building department has no objection to the application. Our engineering division has no comments. Our drainage superintendent has no comments. The MTO has no comments, and the Niagara region has also provided that they have no objections to the proposed application. All comments have been circulated to the applicant.
Okay, thanks, Brianna. Jake, do you have any questions or comments that Brianna just summarized?
Nope.
Okay, I'll ask the committee members if they have any questions for the applicant. Terry, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Ken, do you have any questions?
Neither do I, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. And Mackenzie, I don't see anybody else in the audience who would like to speak for or against the application. So I'll ask that this file would be closed and ask committee members to express their views, and then we'll put the motion on the floor.
I'll be voting in favor, Mr. Chair. It represents good planning and will facilitate expansion of an existing business.
Ken?
Mr. Chair, I concur with my fellow member. The boundary adjustment will facilitate expansion of the existing employment use, and the retained lot will retain sufficient area for future development.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be supporting the application. The region supports, the town supports it. It meets the consent application. And what Terry just summarized in his comments, I'll be supporting the application. If Terry want to put the motion on the floor.
Based on all oral and written submissions, I move the consent application B5021 be approved with the conditions as requested.
And do we have a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? The motion is carried and approved. Jake, you'll receive a written notice of committee decision. The decision becomes final. So long, no appeals received within the 20 days of the notice. Thanks for attending tonight.
Yep. Thank you all very much.
Have a good night. Okay, the last application tonight is minor variance, file 7621. The address is 3040 Ridgemount Road. The applicant is Philip Kerr. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Good, Mr. Chair. How are you today?
Good. And are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
Yes, I am.
I'll ask Brianna to read the correspondence, same thing, because you've been waiting there for a little bit. If you have any comments or questions, once she summarized the correspondence, you may feel free to do. If we have any questions, we'll ask you then, okay?
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, Brianna, you can read the correspondence or summarize it. Thank you.
Application A7621 for 3040 Ridgemount Road by Philip Kerr proposes to allow an increase to the maximum building height and number of stories for a proposed detached garage. The proposed detached garage is intended to be used for the parking of an RV and boat. Staff has reviewed the application and is in support of the requested variance as it meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. Our building department has no objection. Engineering services has no comments. No comments provided by our drainage superintendent, no comments from the MTO. The Niagara region has also reviewed the application, do not object to the proposed minor variance application, provided that no plumbing or living space is included within the proposed development. Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority also have no objections to the proposed minor variance application, and those are all the comments that have been received.
Thanks, Brianna. Phil, do you have any questions or any comments of any of the correspondence that was made in your application?
No, I think it's all covered, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks. Do any of the members have any questions?
I do
Terry?
not, Mr. Chair.
No. Okay, Ken, Terry?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
The only question I have, it is just for your personal vehicles, correct, in the boat?
Boats, toys, camper trailer. Yeah, I've got equipment and things, tractors and so forth laying around the yard, getting sun damage and stuff. Garage is getting full. Basement,
Okay.
I live on a floodplain and can't keep anything down there. So mainly for, extra storage space.
Okay, thank you so much. And you're well aware that you can't use that for like an accessory use, like an apartment or plumbing, anything in there. It can't be used for that, correct?
I'm well aware. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mackenzie, I don't see anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for or against the application. So I'll ask this file, to be closed and ask committee members to express their views.
Mr. Chair, I would be in favor of the minor variance application. It does meet the 4 tests for the minor variance. The reporting agencies are not providing any objection either to the application.
Thanks, Terry.
I'll be voting in favor as well, Mr. Chair. Just to add to Ken's comments, there's a generous separation between the proposed garage and abutting properties in the neighborhood, so there should be no massing. So I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you. That's a good point. Thanks, Terry. I'll be supporting the application. It meets the variance test application, and the only concern is it's just an accessory used for more storage. So I'll be supporting the application. If someone wants to put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll put a motion on the floor that in consideration of all the written and oral submissions, that minor variance file number A7621 for 3040 Ridgemount Road be approved as it meets the Planning Act tests for the minor variance. I understand that there are no conditions. Is that correct, Brianna?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion is carried and approved. Phil, you'll receive written notice of the committee decision. Decision becomes final so long no appeals received within the 20 days of this notice. Thanks for attending and have a good night, okay? Take
Thanks,
care.
sir.
Take care. Okay, now I'll ask the motion from the committee to process the signing of the decisions concurred by the majority of members electronically.
So moved.
And
I'll second.
Ken- And I'll just carry it and approve that. Okay, thank you. And I'll ask the members if they have any corrections to the minutes of the November 18th meeting that were circulated.
I
That's correct.
circulated those late, so perhaps if you could review and no rush getting back to me and just send me an email with any corrections or updates and if you're okay with them.
Okay. All right, so you want us to review them, and if we have any corrections, then we'll let you know via electronically.
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there any other further business? Any other business?
Other than the appeal that I mentioned yesterday, that's the only new business coming forward. And I think that's it.
Okay.
Anything from you, Mackenzie? No?
And the committee members, no business, no further business, okay?
I
The
actually,
next-
sorry, just
Yep,
one
go ahead.
question for the committee before we stop. Are you okay with how, when there's no one in objection, how brief the summary was today? For
Oh,
the
that was great. That was great.
Okay.
Yes, very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so the next hearing date is January 20, 2022. That'll be our first one for the new year. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 6:43 PM. Thank you so much for attending and visually watching the Committee of Adjustment for the 2021